A gunship is a military aircraft armed with heavy guns, primarily intended for attacking ground targets. Terminology: the term gunship originated in the mid-19th century as a synonym for gunboat and also referred to the heavily armed ironclad steamships used during the American Civil War, World War II aviation, bomber escort. During 1942 and 1943, the lack of a usable escort fighter for the United States Army Air Forces in the European theater of operations led to experiments in dramatically increasing the armament of a standard Boeing B-17F Flying Fortress, and later a single consolidated B-24D Liberator to each have 14 to 16 Browning and M250 cal machine guns as the Boeing YB-40 Flying Fortress and consolidated XB-41 Liberator heavy fighters, respectively, each meant to accompany regular heavy bomber formations over occupied Europe on strategic bombing raids for long-range escort duties. The YB-40 was sometimes described as a gunship, and a small 25-aircraft batch of the B-17-derived gunships were built, with a dozen of these deployed to Europe, while the XB-41 remained a prototype only. Attack aircraft. During World War II, the urgent need for hard-hitting attack aircraft led to the development of the heavily armed gunship versions of the North American B-25 Mitchell. The 405 examples produced of the B-25G variant were armed with the 75mm M4 cannon, and the 1,000 examples produced of the B-25H followed with a lighter TE-13E1 cannon of the same caliber. The most built B-25J variant omitted such heavy caliber weaponry, but could in some cases carry an impressive total of 18 Marduce and M2 Browning 50 cal machine guns, more than any other contemporary American aircraft. 8 in the nose, 4 in undercockpit conformal flank mount gun pod packages, 2 in the dorsal turret when aimed directly forward, 1 each in the pair of waist positions, and a pair in the tail, with 14 of the guns either permanently aimed forward, or aimable directly forward in the dorsal turret, relocated to a forward position for both the H and J subtypes as produced for strafing missions. Later the B-25J was additionally armed with 8 5-in high-velocity aircraft rockets. Similar attempts by the British and Germans to create twin-engined gunships carrying similarly heavy cannon-style ordnance resulted in the 17 examples built of the de Havilland Mosquito FBMK-18, bearing an autoloader-equipped aviation version of the 57mm caliber ordnance QF 6-pounder, and the sizable number of German Zerstörer heavy fighter types using examples of the Bordkanone heavy caliber guns, in contrast to the handful of Tankbuster dedicated cannon and Vogel Ju-87 gigaseconds armed with the Beak A-37 twin 37mm autocannon in underwing gun pods. Aircraft like the Ju-88P were used for both tankbuster and bomber-destroyer duties as gunships, using all 3 caliber sizes of the Bordkanone series ordnance in its 4 known subtypes, while the Rust Bausatz U-4 factory conversion package for the Me-410 Hornisse armed it with the same BK-5 cannon 50mm caliber ordnance as the Ju-88P4 used, almost solely for bomber-destroyer duties. None of the German twin-engined gunship types were produced or converted in large numbers. Post-World War II aviation. Fixed-wing aircraft. In the more modern, post-World War II fixed-wing aircraft category, A gunship is an aircraft having laterally mounted heavy armaments to attack ground or sea targets. These gunships were configured to circle the target instead of performing strafing runs. Such aircraft have their armament on one side harmonized to fire at the apex of an imaginary cone formed by the aircraft and the ground when performing a pylon turn. As the first notable case of the now standard use of gunship in 1964, during the Vietnam War, the popular Douglas C-47 Skytrain transport was successfully modified by the United States Air Force with side-firing miniguns for circling attacks. At the time the aircraft was known as Dragonship or Puff, the Magic Dragon. It was the later and larger Lockheed AC-130 Gunship II that became the modern, post-World War II origin of the term gunship in military aviation. These heavily armed aircraft used a variety of weapon systems, including 7.62 mm GAU-2 miniguns, 20 mm M61 Vulcan 6-barrel rotary cannons, 25 mm GAU-12U equalizer 5-barreled rotary cannons, 30 mm Mk-44 Bushmaster 2-chain guns, 40 mm L-60 Bofors autocannons, and 105 mm M102 howitzers. The Douglas AC-47 Spooky, the Fairchild AC-119 and the AC-130 Spectre Spooky were vulnerable, and meant to operate only after achieving air superiority. Smaller gunship designs such as the Fairchild O-23 Peacemaker and the Helio O-24 Stallion were also designed by the United States during the Vietnam War. These aircraft were meant to be cheap and easy to fly and maintain, and were to be given to friendly governments in Southeast Asia to assist with counter-insurgency operations, eventually seeing service with the Khmer National Air Force, Royal Thai Air Force, and Vietnam Air Force, as well as limited use by the United States Air Force. Renewed interest in the concept of gunships has resulted in the development of a gunship variant of the Alenia C-27J Spartan. Although the United States Air Force decided not to procure the AC-27J, other nations including Italy have chosen the aircraft for introduction. Additionally, in 2013 the U.S. Air Force Special Operations Command reportedly tested a gunship version of the C-145A Skytruck armed with a GAU-18 twin-mount, 50-caliber machine gun system. Helicopter gunships. Early helicopter gunships also operated in the side-firing configuration, an example being the aerospatial Alouette 3 initially used in the Portuguese colonial war and then also in the South African border and Rhodesian bush wars. During the Vietnam War, the ubiquitous Bellew H-1 Iroquois helicopters were modified into gunships by mounting the U.S. helicopter armament subsystems. These were forward-firing weapons, such as machine guns, rockets, and autocannons, that began to appear in 1962–1963. Rotary wing aircraft can use a variety of combat maneuvers to approach a target. In that case, the term gunship is synonymous with heavily armed helicopter. Specifically, dedicated attack helicopters such as the Bell R-1 Cobra also fit this meaning. In any case, the gunship armaments include machine guns, rockets, autocannons, missiles, etc. The Soviet Mi-24 is a large, heavily armed and armored helicopter gunship and troop transport. It was introduced in the 1970s and operated by the pre-1991 Soviet Air Force and its successors post-1991, and more than 30 other nations. Its armaments include machine guns, rockets, cannons, missiles, etc. Its fuselage is heavily armored and is designed to withstand 50-caliber machine gun fire. Its armored cockpits and titanium rotor head are able to withstand 20 mm cannon hits. Gallery. Examples of gunships are Aerospatial Alouette 3 variants, Boeing R-6, Boeing ACH-47 Chinook, Belleau 58 Kiowa variants, Belleau H-1 Iroquois variants, Douglas AC-47 Spooky, Fairchild AC-119 Stinger, Lockheed AC-130, Fairchild O-23 Peacemaker, Helio O-24 Stallion, Milne Mi-24, Sikorsky V-60L Direct Action Penetrator.